Welcome back to another episode from Checking From Behind, you beauties. I'm Zach, joined as always by Preston. And how are you doing today on this fine August evening?
We had a fun episode for you guys today. We're doing a redraft of the 2015 draft, which I think might be by the time it's said and done, I think the 2015 draft might end up going down as one of the best drafts
top three
ever.
Draft of all time.
I think it's going to be up there, maybe even more highly regarded than the 2003 draft. Ooh. Because of probably one player is going to put it over the top. I mean, I can't imagine you guys know who that player is, so it's going to be a shocker here. But overall, yeah, really solid draft. A lot of fun going through research, trying to figure out who to put where. Like, first 10, 15 picks weren't very hard. It's just where order. And then, towards the end of the first round, we had we get a little creative.
Yeah, get hyped, get out of your seat, because we're bringing things back here anyway. So first, huge news, John Tavares. Was he stripped of the C, or did he step down? I think he was stripped of the C. Austin Matthews, officially captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. This came out of left field, dude. I
was surprised by this. I mean, maybe that kind of is Tavares still gonna have an A?
I don't know on that. However, dude, I felt so bad for Tavares because he was there at the press conference and he gave something to Austin Matthews. I don't know if it was a jersey with the C, whatever, but they made John Tavares sit there, and I guess John Tavares got pulled aside and was asked about it, and Tavares allegedly stepped down. I don't know if they're listen, we're gonna make Matthews the C, or if they were asked hey, we're thinking about making Austin Matthews a C,
I think it was a situation where this is a classic Craig Berube move, I think. Trying to just shake up the room a little bit. Tavares is the unquestioned captain of the team. He's the captain of the Islanders before he came over to Toronto. Just to shake things up. My guess is it was probably handled Tavares is a respected veteran, and he's earned the right to know. They probably went up to him and was like, "Hey, John, we want to make Austin the captain of the team. Now you can either give him the C, or we'll just take it from you. How do you want to go about it?" And John Tavares, I'm sure he understood why they were doing what they're doing. I mean, Matthews is the clear face of that franchise, one of the faces of the NHL. I think the thing that was more surprising to me about it is I thought for sure that Toronto was probably going to end up re-signing Tavares after this season. They might still, but I didn't really see a reason to take the C away from him. I don't know how big of an effect that would have in the room. So I don't know what their plans are with Tavares going forward. That kind of makes me question a little bit, how committed are they to keeping him there longer than the last year of his contract? Because I'm sure he'll take a big pay cut to stay with the team, but do they want him?
The question remains unanswered. We won't know for another year until July 1st. Or I'm not even going to mention anything about it because it won't happen.
Yeah, so. They're not trading him.
Yeah, I already knew. Anyways, so do you guys, let us know in the comment section, do you guys think giving Austin Matthews a C was a good move? Let us know. All right, so we're going on to our 2015 redraft. We're just doing the entire first round.
So just before we get started, like I said before, I think the 2015 draft might end up going down as one of the best drafts in NHL history. The amount of elite, really high talent players that came out of this draft, you might end up having the greatest player of all time in this draft. If not one of
top 10.
One of the best. Oh, he'll end up being top 5 for sure. Yeah, he's on that trajectory. But even after him, I'm not gonna say names because I don't want to spoil it. So gonna have to keep waiting for who's gonna be number 1. But yeah, a lot of really great players in this draft. It was kind of tough to do this, because me and Zach both went through. We ended up having our own separate list, but we kind of just decided after talking which one to go with. I feel like for the top 15, outside of the top 5, there's a lot of arguments you could have for a lot of the different players going in different spots. I will say, not the strongest class for defensemen.
Kind of weak.
Horrible for goaltending. You got 1, maybe 2 goalies that could be drafted in the first round in a redo. But outside of that, bad goalie draft.
Yeah.
Not a great defensive draft, but forward draft. Oh, was this draft deep. So many great offensive talents. So why don't we get started with number 1, the biggest shock of this mock draft. The Oilers are going to stick with Connor McDavid. This is the easiest part of it. I mean, dude has almost 1,000 points already.
Over an assist a game in his career.
I know he doesn't have a Stanley Cup yet. He'll get one, but I mean, he's the unquestioned best player in the world right now. Has been for the last 4 or 5 years. Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer to keep him at 1.
The only thing he's missing in his hardware right now is the Stanley Cup, and he'll get that eventually.
I think the Oilers have a really good chance to win the Cup next year. So I think McDavid will get one eventually. You can't deny him that much greatness for that long.
Number 2, we have his counterpart, Jack Eichel. Really, anybody from 2 to 6 is really interchangeable in my opinion. But yeah, we have Eichel at 2. Still think Buffalo sticks with him. I mean, he's dealt with some injury issues.
And also horrible teams.
We're talking about horrible with Buffalo. Finally got healthy with Vegas after a year and a half of dealing with injury after injury after injury. It was probably closer to 2 years.
It was mainly one injury, but...
Well, he was dealing with some ankle injuries.
Yeah, but it was mainly his neck.
Yeah.
It was mainly his neck.
Going into Vegas, it was his neck thing. Finally got healthy and was this close from winning a Conn Smythe.
I think he should have won the Conn Smythe.
He should have.
We're Buffalo fans. We don't love Eichel, but he's a great player. For me, I wasn't going to keep him at number 2. If you would have done this 2 years ago, I don't think he would have stayed at number 2. I think it would have been Marner, Aho, or maybe even Kaprizov, Rantanen, those guys. But he won the Stanley Cup. He had that amazing playoff run for Vegas, and there's not a lot of these guys on this list that have a Stanley Cup. And his playoff performance, and he's been every bit of the player that. When he was in Buffalo, he was great on horrible teams. Led the team in points almost every year he was there. Gets traded to Vegas. Was coming off an injury. First full year in Vegas, he looks like an all-star. One of the best players in the league. Has that historic playoff run. He had a great season last year too. So I think Eichel sticks at 2. Number
3, none other than Mitch Marner. Some people might get mad at this, but Mitch Marner is a perennial 80. He's going to give you 80 assists. He's going to be over a point per game. He's going to be a 90 to 100 point guy every single season. I don't want to hear anything about playoff performance or defense, this and that. I get the inconsistencies of playoffs could maybe drag him down of some of your guys' lists, but he's at close to a point per game. His point per game status is close to Matthews, close to Nylander, close to Tavares. He gets so much flack for no reason, and he is
a smaller player. He's not a big guy. He's not a super physical kind of player.
His defense has improved the last couple seasons too. I don't want to hear anything about you see Mitch Marner in Game 7. No, it's some hockey. I don't mean to get all bent out of shape, and we're
it's a team sport.
Exactly.
But if you just look at his numbers, the numbers tell the story. Dude has you said 70, 80, 90 points a year. You can count on him for at least 70 probably assists every year. I don't know. I think Toronto was as good without him. I think he's a core pillar of that piece. I'm curious to see what his extension looks like with the Maple Leafs because I think they'll get that done. But moving on to number 4, I have Sebastian Aho going to Toronto. Aho to me is one of the premier centermen in the league. He can do anything for you. He's also very, very responsible defensively, but he can shoot, he can pass, not afraid to hit a guy. I think he's a complete player, and the Hurricanes he's the reason why Carolina took that jump.
One of the best two-way guys in the entire league. He can drive play. He can play great in his own end, play great in...
He's a great face-off man, too.
He's everything you want in a center. Number 5, Kirill Kaprizov. Well, it's Kirill the Throw Kaprizov.
Yes.
But this dude, I'm convinced that people just forget about this guy. I don't know if some of you guys know that he had 97 points this season, because I didn't know until about 2 weeks ago when we talked about the Minnesota Wild.
I think Minnesota being mid for the last few years kind of helped people kind of forget about him. He was a 5th-round pick in the draft originally. I think it was that Russian factor. They weren't sure if he was going to come over. It was kind of similar to Tarasenko when the Blues drafted him. He fell further than he should have because they weren't. I think Tarasenko was still a 1st-round pick in his draft, but he should have probably been a top 10 pick. And he ended up falling in his draft because the Blues kind of took a risk when they drafted him. It was like, okay, we're going to use this 1st-round pick on this Russian player. Will he come to North America? He did. They ended up winning a cup with him. I think Kaprizov is a similar story. I mean, it's kind of crazy that he fell to the 5th round, but there was uncertainty.
It is nuts.
It was very much uncertain. I don't really remember hearing this guy's name at all going into the draft. So, because this draft I paid a lot of attention to because we were Sabres fans when we were openly tanking for Connor McDavid. So I was paying very much attention to this draft. But Kaprizov, like one of the premier offensive talents in this league, he's like a franchise player in my opinion.
He's at 330 points in 278 games played. Like, this dude he's one of the best offensive players in the league. Number 6, Mikko Rantanen going to New Jersey. Some people might be a little bit ruffled about him being at 6. However, though, I think that might be a little bit of recency bias.
I mean, he's a great player.
He's great.
I mean, he's still, like, look at the players in front of him. They're all amazing as well.
Yes.
Like, this is not a shot at him. He also has the Stanley Cup. He's on one of the best lines in hockey with Nathan McKinnon. I think he benefits a lot from Nathan McKinnon, but who wouldn't?
Exactly.
But, he's a great winger. He could drive play, great shot. Rantanen, I think you want to talk about underappreciated. I feel like nobody really talks about Rantanen that much. I think he's overshadowed a lot by Nathan McKinnon in Colorado because, I mean, McKinnon, is one of the best players in the world, top 5 in the NHL right now, in my opinion. But a lot of people forget how sneaky good Rantanen is, and he also helps McKinnon a lot.
Number 7, we have Matthew Barzal going to Philly. Matthew Barzal is the guy where first he came into the season, rookie season, lit it up. Almost, I don't want to say fell off a cliff, but he got stuck in that horrible Islanders
I think
system.
if Barzal didn't have to play for such a defensively minded team, I think he might be in the top 5.
With Patrick Wise as head coach, he's over a point per game.
I mean, he's so freaking fast and he's so creative with the puck. You got to let him do his thing. I mean, I think having the defensive coach for a few years helped him round out his defensive game.
Yeah.
But he's so quick. He's so good with the puck. I don't know if you remember that goal he scored against the Sabres where he
Disgusting.
walked everybody. You can't let him get an open space. He's so dangerous with the puck.
One-on-one, he's beating you 9 times out of 10.
Yes.
Number 8, Kyle Connor going to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Again, another underappreciated guy. Gets stuck on Winnipeg and all the way up there in the middle of nowhere. They're a team that are first-round exits pretty much every year except for a year or two they went to the Western Conference Finals. And he's a guy who, on the wing, can put the puck in the back of the net. He
made them get rid of Patrick Laine.
Did he really?
I mean, they had Kyle Connor and Laine, and they had to decide, and they chose Kyle Connor.
Oh, was it like cap stuff?
And that's when they ended up bringing in Dubois for a couple of years on the cheaper contract because they had to pay Kyle Connor.
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah.
They chose Kyle. Good move, by the way.
Oh yeah, Kyle Connor's a complete player. Laine's a goal scorer, but Kyle Connor can do everything, and he's also wicked fast.
And I'm pretty sure he's younger too. No, is he older?
He's a year older.
No, I think he's a year older. Okay.
Because Laine was the next draft.
Yeah, you're right.
2016, yeah.
Okay. All right. Number 9. This is going to be a surprise to you guys. Zach Werenski going to San Jose.
I think Zach Werenski might be the best defenseman in this draft class. I mean, he's more of an offensive defenseman. Like Hannafin's more of a two-way, more defensive type. He can play on the power play. But Werenski, the Columbus needs him so bad. I think they overpaid for him a little bit when they signed with that extension, but he drives plays, the power play quarterback. I mean, those few years together when he was with Seth Jones in Columbus definitely helped him develop a lot quicker. But in my opinion, Werenski's an elite defenseman in this league.
Him and Seth Jones together in Columbus, they really helped each other out so much.
Yes.
Number 10, going to Colorado, we have Rope Hintz. Rope Hintz is a guy who can give you minimum 60 points on the second line, 70 points.
He's another very underrated player. I think he gets undershadowed a lot in Dallas. I think most of that team gets undershadowed. But, a lot of people like to talk about, Jason Robertson, Miro Heiskanen, Jake Ottinger, like the obvious stars for that team. On the stars are the stars.
Yeah,
ha ha ha. Oh, man. You can dislike the video now. It's okay. That was a bad joke.
Subscribe too.
But I think outside of, Heiskanen is probably the most important player in that team. Robertson as well. I think he's like the third most important player in that team. They
Easily.
use him in all situations.
When he was out for a period of time in this year's playoffs, Dallas did not look the same at all.
Oh no, he's a very important piece of this team.
It's crazy how, now I know this might not be rocket science or it might be obvious, but it's so insane how you see one player out of the lineup and all of a sudden the rest of the team is like, they don't know what to do. I'm not saying they can't survive without him because they still won games, but like
when you count as a player to do as much as like a Rope Hintz does, and you're probably alluding to like Larkin with the Red Wings as well, because they fell apart without him. That was actually kind of pathetic.
It was sad.
But when you rely on a player to do as much, and you need guys to step up, and that shows you how good Rope Hintz is, because they were worse without him. I mean. And you need guys to step up and fill that role, and not one guy can just do all that. They need multiple people to step up to fill in one player's role.
Great point. Number 11, going to Florida, we have Noah Hannafin, who kind of took on the scene the past couple seasons, really became that elite defenseman. We would call him elite, right?
Borderline.
So he's he's a great player.
Yeah, he's a top end talent in the league. I don't know if he belongs to that elite conversation yet.
You're right.
But he's getting there. I think Vegas is a really good fit for him, and I think next year, his first full year in Vegas, I think he's going to really make a leap.
Number 12, going to Dallas, we have Brock Besser. We saw him this season absolutely take the league by storm, propelling the Vancouver Canucks to a first in the Pacific Division. They were so close to making it to the Western Conference Finals. Brock Besser was an integral part.
That was a big part why they lost Game 7 is he didn't play.
Yeah,
that was a really big loss. Brock Besser is a pure goal scorer. That dude's shot is crazy. He's at his best when he's like on a wing with like a really good center that can feed him pucks. Quinn, he's a big beneficiary of Quinn Hughes, who just feeded him pucks, but he has the ability to put in the net. Like, it doesn't matter how good the guy's giving you the puck are. If you can't shoot, it doesn't matter. And Brock Besser, he's an elite goal scorer in this league, in my opinion.
He knows where to be, where the puck's going to be, and even he'll crash the net, drive the net, and find the loose rebounds and bury them.
I just find it funny with Besser because I feel like up until this season, like you just heard his name in rumors every freaking year. Like, when are the Canucks going to trade him? When are the Canucks going to trade him?
They should trade him.
I think they're happy to then trade him, but the problem is they can't pay him now. Because I think next year's the last year of his contract. Yeah. So how much is Brock Besser going to get? Can Canucks re-sign him? Going
on to number 13, going to Boston, we have Travis Konecny. Travis Konecny is a guy who he's going to be physical. He's going to be grindy.
He's a pest, man. He's like Brad Marchand, in my opinion. He's like that kind of player.
He's a Walmart version of Brad Marchand. Just because
he's that great value brand.
It's no disrespect to Konecny because there's a reason he's going 13th in a redraft. But Brad Marchand's so good, and I don't think
he was the 7th pick originally in the draft, wasn't he?
Konecny?
He was Provorov they picked with their first round pick. I think he went later in the first round. Because Philly has 2 first round picks in this draft.
So, Konecny is going to give you 60 points a season. Earned his contract extension this past offseason. Great player. And listen, I get teams don't like him playing against him, but if he was
he's a
on
pest.
Your guys' team,
he's a pure pest. He's not afraid to do the little stuff, get dirty in the corners, score a greasy goal every once in a while. You hate to play against a player like him.
I would love to have him on my team. Number 14, Boston for the second out of 3 times, Timo Meier. Timo Meier, when he was in San Jose, great player. Got traded to New Jersey, kind of did not do great.
I don't think him and Lindy Ruff really meshed well together. I think they butted heads a good amount. And after Ruff did get fired, Meier started to look a lot better.
Travis Green came in and Timo Meier looked like a completely different player. It looked like his San Jose form, to be honest with you. And I want to see what Timo Meier can do with Sheldon Keefe this season. I think he's going to thrive in Keefe's system.
Yeah, he's a great power forward, has a good shot. Yeah, I'm excited to see what he could do with a coach that's going to let him take full advantage of his abilities.
Thomas Chabot, number 15th overall pick, going to Boston. It's still crazy how Boston missed all 3 of these players.
DeBrusk isn't a horrible pick.
He's not a horrible, but the other 2 guys, they're going to be on the screen.
In the original draft, right after Boston had their 3 picks in a row, I believe only DeBrusk is. I think Zorbril might be on an NHL contract, but the third guy never even played a game.
Yeah.
DeBrusk is okay. He's like a good late round, first round pick, but the 2 picks after them. Those 3 picks were Matt Barzal and Kyle Connor.
And then Shabbat went after.
And that's the biggest what if I can imagine for Bruins fans. Like, what if we pick those three guys? That just that sets them up for future success. You know, you have those older guys. You have Bergeron, Marchand, Krejci, and then you bring in the next generation.
You still have Lucic too. Like you would have won multiple cups.
I think, I who knows what would have happened if those players ended up in Boston, but Boston really fumbled the bag on these picks.
Come on. Was Don Sweeney was a GM still, right?
I think that's when he just got there, yeah.
Either way.
They didn't have Lucic anymore. That's how they got one.
They traded him that late. Like, I thought he got traded.
Everyone thought they were making a move to move up to like the top 10 or top 5 and like package the picks together, and they just didn't do anything.
Huh.
Because everyone was like, okay, they have 3 picks in a row. There's no way they're making all 3 of them. And then they made all 3 of them.
Anyways, Thomas Chabot, you're going at 15th overall. I'm hoping to see what he can do without Chychrun. He was good, like really good on Ottawa.
Yeah, he's a great offensive defenseman. He still is not great defensively, but he's a pure. He drives the play. He's really good zone exit kind of guy. He's still not the most reliable defensively though.
No, he kind of gets caught up in the play sometimes. However, though, I think his offensive game, I hope to see a huge step in him this season. Number 16, going to the Islanders, we have Joel Eriksson Ek, the best. I'm gonna say a top two-way forward in the league right now.
He's super underrated. I feel like next year he should get Selke votes. No, he's another very underrated player. Very, very, very good two-way centerman. Great at face-offs. Minnesota, very happy. I don't remember where he got picked originally, but it was a good value pick.
He got picked 20th overall.
I mean, yeah, that's a good pick.
Great value pick. I mean, the dude does not get talked again. Minnesota factor, but the past 2 seasons he's put up 60 points each. He's gonna give you 30-30. So, getting him at 20 in this draft, honestly, it was great. Number 17 going to Winnipeg is Dylan Strome. Again, a guy who got drafted. I think he got
He was
drafted
the third overall pick. Yeah.
Yeah, and he had so much high upside. Didn't pan out for Arizona or really Chicago.
He wasn't bad in Chicago. I was really surprised when they didn't tender him as an RFA. I think the whole thing with Dylan Strome going to this draft is he played on the line with Connor McDavid in juniors. Dylan Strome's a great player, but he was playing on the line with Connor McDavid, and it inflated his stats quite a bit, which made the Coyotes reached at, I think even when they drafted him, I was a reach at 3, especially with the players that after him. You know, he's found a good home for him, I think, in Washington, and he's never going to live up to being the 3rd overall pick in this draft, but I think he's a solid NHL player, not a bad 1st round pick.
Him being in Washington this past season, he was one of probably 3 reasons on the why Washington.
He had a great season last year.
Did.
I think they're going to keep asking him to do more. I think he's the number 1 center, and then Brielle Dubois is probably number 2 next year.
Yeah. Number 18, going to Ottawa, Troy Terry on Anaheim at the moment. He had an unreal season past 2 seasons. He's the type of guy who he's going to put the puck in the back of the net for you.
Pure goal scorer. Yeah.
His defense it's okay, but I mean,
that's not what they're paying him for.
Exactly. He's getting paid the $6 million a year, whatever it is, to score goals, and that's what he's going to do.
Yeah, it took a little while for him to get going, but the last couple of years, he's really found his game and has identified himself as a pretty good goal scorer in the league. 20, 30 goal, maybe 40.
I would love to see him hit 40 this season.
Yeah.
Going on to number 19th overall pick, going to Detroit, we have Vince Dunn. Originally, I believe he got drafted by the Blues. He was a good player on the Blues. Unfortunately for the Blues, they couldn't protect him. Got taken by Seattle in the Seattle expansion draft, and it's been a great player for him. Great puck moving defenseman.
Yes, yeah. One of the he's a very important piece in that Seattle team because their team has a really tough time scoring, and he's one of the few defensemen on that team that can drive the play. And unfortunately, I think during that time, St. Louis still had that decor they had from when they won the Stanley Cup, and it wasn't a bad decor, but they had a lot of guys similar to that, and he was younger, and they were like, we don't know what you're going to be still, so good luck in Seattle.
I mean, at that point, it was a win-now mode type of thing, and I don't blame St. Louis either. Going on to the 20th overall pick, going to Minnesota, Adin Hill. Adin Hill is not, I don't want to say strictly on here because of the cup, but his cup run was unreal. And
I think last year before he got hurt, he was having a really great season too.
He was a top 3 Vezina.
I mean, he only played like 15 games before
Yeah,
he got
but he
hurt.
was dude. He was goals against of like 1.5 and a save percentage of like 9.25.
I will
30.
say he benefits a lot from playing in front of that Vegas defense, but he's still a good goalie. I mean, some of this I remember in the Stanley Cup final, so he made some crazy saves.
Number 21, we have going to Ottawa, Anthony Cirelli. He could have been moved higher, but there's so many good players.
Yeah,
in this draft.
this was the player I had a really tough time finding a place for him. Like where I knew he was going to be in the first round. Just where do I put him? Because honestly, I don't think without him, I don't think Tampa Bay wins back-to-back Stanley Cups.
Oh my God, dude, he provided great depth, and he wouldn't be a depth player on most teams. I mean, he put up 60 points.
I think he's best on the second or third line. He's a great penalty killer. He could score, but he's more known, I think, for his defensive game.
Oh my God, put him on any team. He's a second line.
I think originally he was like a third or fifth round pick, so Tampa had a steal in this draft.
His development went crazy.
Yeah.
Number 22 going to Washington, we have Rasmus Andersson, a guy coming up through the Calgary Flames system. Has really emerged himself as a guy who can move the puck really well, especially vertically up the ice, break it out well. And defensively, I think he really goes underlooked too, and on this Calgary Flames team, which isn't supposed to be that great. Probably going to be a mid-team.
Is he signed long-term?
So it goes through this season.
This is the last year of his contract,
Yeah.
so I don't know if they'll be able to get a long-term deal done with him, and then he might end up getting moved in a trade.
Trade deadline. Rasmus Andersson will be traded. All right, moving on to number 23, going to Vancouver. Jake DeBrusk, he just signed there a long-term deal going to the Pacific Northwest. Honestly, not a bad pick here.
I think the Bruins are going to miss him. I mean, he's a consistent second-line player. He can play power play minutes. I think the Bruins would definitely miss him. I don't think the Bruins are ever going to give him that kind of term.
And that money, too, I don't think.
I think it was more about the term for him. I think he made it very apparent he wanted a long-term deal, and I don't think Boston was ever going to give that to him.
Yeah, he wanted to find a place to actually stay in. That's fine by me. Going on to number 24 to Philadelphia, we have Pavel Zacha, a guy who will give you valuable minutes, will give you 14, 15 minutes a night, 16 minutes a night, whatever it may be, can slot into that middle six, can play defense, can win faceoffs. Like, he is what you want in a center. The only downside is that it feels like he really needs a wing to help drive him to play. Zacha can't drive the play, but he can contribute in other ways that other centers can't.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're getting to the point now in the end of the first round, we're getting to more like solid second-line players. Maybe towards the last couple picks, good third-line players. But, Pavel Zacha is a very important part of that Bruins team. I think he did a good job stepping up these last couple of years in the absence of Patrice Bergeron and Krejci. A lot of questions going into the season about whether, Zacha and Charlie Coyle could step up, and I think they did.
They stepped up in a huge way. Going on to number 25, the Winnipeg Jets select Brandon Carlo, a defenseman who is currently also on the Bruins. Again, that
was a good pick by the Bruins late in the draft.
A great pick by him. He is a great second defense pairing guy. He has been an integral part of Boston.
He plays a lot of minutes for them. I think Boston has one of the better D-cores in the league, and they rely a lot on Carlo to play a lot of big minutes.
I believe he is a penalty killer too.
Yeah, he's a good shot blocker.
Yes,
yeah,
love him. Going on to number 26, Montreal selects Ivan Provorov, and if we did this draft a couple years ago, he 100% would have been higher.
Yeah,
for sure. He was good. He was great on Philly.
I mean, I think Columbus is just where some of these players just go to die. It seems like. Provorov's interesting. Provorov, I think this year's the last year of his contract too, because I don't think Philly ever intended to pay him.
No,
and I don't really know what he's worth. To me, he's at best a second pair defenseman at this point in his career. You could still get some value out of him, but
unless you can,
he's definitely declined the last few years.
Unless you can revive his career, I think his value would be like a bridge deal type of thing.
I mean,
to this point.
We're getting to a point now where these guys are like 26, 27 years old, though. You can't.
I mean,
is that really a bridge deal when you're that old?
Yeah, it can be like if he's 28 years old and he's like, here's a 3-year contract worth $3
But are you going
to
give him a long-term deal when he's 31?
No, just if he has to walk, he has to walk. Like,
I mean, for me, more of a bridge deal is like a guy coming off his ELC, and was like, okay, we want to sign you a long-term deal. You won't sign a long-term deal. you want this much money. We're not going to give you this much money, so we'll give you a 3-year deal at this much money. We'll just compromise, and then we'll walk you to 26 years old, usually 26, 25. You'll still be an RFA, and then we'll try to get a long-term deal done by then.
Oh, I looked at a bridge deal of like, we're going to use you as a placeholder, and then eventually we're not going to commit to you long-term, but you're good enough to be on this team.
That's what a bridge deal is. It's usually with younger players when you don't want to sign them to
you want to see if they're worth it.
The team 9 times out of 10 is going to want to sign them to a 7 or 8 year deal, get the most value out of it. And usually a lot of players coming off their ELC, they think if I play a couple more years, okay, I might be able to get $6 million a year on my long-term deal now, but if I keep this up the next couple of years, I can get like $8 or $9 million. So I think that's why it's becoming more common for guys coming off their rookie deals to take these shorter term contracts, 3-4 years.
Yeah, I guess like in hockey, the younger guys coming off their ELCs are taking more of the shorter. That's why we're seeing a lot of the 27, 28, 29-year-olds taking the 7-year deals, 8-year deals. I guess like it's more of a football thing where you have a 28-year-old takes a 4-year deal and it's a placeholder, whatever. But anyways, different sports. All right. Moving on here to the 27th overall pick going to Anaheim. His first name's Tommy? Yeah, Tommy Novak. He's a great player for Nashville. A great third-line guy. Could possibly slide into a second-line guy if
he had 45 points last year. He's been sold. It took him a few years to get to the NHL. He was a third-round pick originally in the draft, so not super high expectations right off the bat. But these last couple of years, he's found a good place for him in Nashville, and I think he'll just continue to get better.
Going on here to number 28, going to the Islanders, Connor Garland, a guy who is very underappreciated up there in Vancouver. He was good in Arizona. He's going to give you power play 2 minutes, to give you 20
really
goals.
Good around the Cornet.
I think giving you 20 goals a season, it's not quite a guarantee, but he's going to be around that 16 to 21, 22 goals a season range and a great middle six guy. Going on to 29th overall pick, going to the Columbus Blue Jackets, Jack Roslovic. Again, a third-line guy who felt like kind of has underperformed.
I think the last few years he's kind of took a step back.
But I think he can kind of get that juice back. But we'll see because, again, he's going to – I don't think he got a ton of minutes in New York.
No, he was like a bottom six guy. Yeah, no, I mean, I think at that point in his career, that's might be where he's at
this point. Going on to number 30, going to Arizona, last pick of the first round, Daniel Sprong, a guy who's going to give you 20 goals a season every single season, it seems like. Now, does he provide anything else? Not really, but he knows where to be with the puck.
Solid depth.
Can go
at this point when you get to the draft, especially in the first round, you're getting towards the later picks. You're not really expecting them to be superstars. Mm-hmm. You're looking, okay, can I get a guy who can contribute consistently to my team? And if you can get like a solid second line, third line player, like with the last couple picks in the first round, that's generally a decent pick.
It doesn't matter how they contribute because there's more this game besides just assists, goals, and points. Is he a good penalty killer? Can he go work the boards in the corner? Can he play good in the defensive zone? All of the above. Like, it's more than just goals, points, and assists, and I think that's what some people overlook is like this part of the draft, like you said. Can they contribute in other ways? So
yeah, because I think generally in a draft, like once you get past the top 10, usually top 15, the talent kind of takes a step down, and you're not drafting guys. You might get lucky and then you end up getting like a gem.
Like a Kucherov in the second round.
Yeah, but at that point, you're more willing to take a risk on a guy who might have that upside like a Kucherov, but he hasn't shown you enough to like make you confident taking him. Like say you have like an 8th pick in the draft. Like we're gonna take more of a sure thing here.
Yeah.
And we can take a gamble later in the draft. And everyone has their own evaluation of talent. Sometimes really great players slide, like Cole Caulfield slid to Montreal. That was really weird when that happened. It was all because of his size.
I don't know. That's crazy because Yzerman, Benson, and Caulfield all fell in the draft because of size the past 3 years, 4 years, whatever it is. So I hate that about NHL teams. Oh, size this, size that. I mean, I get it.
I think there's been enough of smaller guys. I mean, I could see maybe not want to take that risk in the top 10 because, historically there hasn't been a lot of really great shorter players. I mean, like Marty St. Louis is a good outlier, Brad Marchand, like guys like that. Cole Caulfield, and he's getting coached by Marty St. Louis. Like,
Yeah.
How more perfect can that be? A guy who probably the greatest greatest small player ever in the NHL, Hall of Famer, undrafted.
Forgot about Nathan Gerbe.
Yeah. Nathan Gerbe's legendary for that picture he has with Chara.
Yeah.
That's what he's known for. But what was I saying?
You were talking about the best non-existent 40-goal scorer, Cole Caulfield of all time.
Yeah, I mean, Montreal, I talk like he's like one of the best players in the league. I mean, good for you. You fans are dedicated.
You guys can have it.
You know what? Rep your team. I respect it. But, yeah, I think just in general, like, recapping this draft, I think there's a lot of there's some really decent players that we left off.
Yes.
Because there's so many good players, and it's really hard to do something like this. Like, I feel for GMs. Can you imagine being a scout and trying to put together, like, your draft list? And there's a lot of pressure on them to get those right, because you could set your team. Like, if you get, like, a top 5 pick and you fuck up that pick, you could set your team back for years.
The GMs and the front office staff have to trust the scouts. The scouts come to them and it's like, these are the players that I think will become NHL players, and the GMs have to trust these guys. And in most cases, 99% of cases, that pick becomes a bust. Guess what? All of it falls on the GM.
I would say 99% of picks are bust.
No. I explained that horribly. 99% of the blame goes on to the GMs. You never hear anything about, this player, like the Shane Wright pick, okay?
Well, at the end of the day, they are the GMs are the ones that make the decision.
But you also are trusting your scouts.
Well, yes,
too.
but you're the scouts that you hired.
Yes.
So I think at the end of the day, like, if there is a bad pick, like, let's say you have a bunch of scouts that fall in love with a player. It's like, we have the 5th pick. We're going to take this guy. We love him. We love his tape. We had really great interviews with him. We think this guy would be perfect for our team. Because you got to remember, the GM hires all of those, all the personnel. He brings in his people. And at the end of the day, they have to present. They go through a whole list of all their teams. It's a really interesting process. They probably spend weeks just going through every player on the list, pros, cons, what they like about them, what they don't. Hundreds of interviews with a bunch of different players. And then at the end of the day, the GM has the final call. And I think a bad pick, that I think the fault does fall on the GM.
It is intriguing to see, like, all these behind-the-scenes stuff. They'll be, like, it's outside of the draft room, too. Like, they'll sit in their office for fucking hours.
Well, a lot of the times, they don't
day.
even make their decision till, like, right until they're about to make the pick.
Like, you watch the behind-the-scenes stuff, then we'll be like, all right, which player are we taking? And then this scout will say, I think we should take this player because of this. And then another one will say a different player, and it's like a whole... And then, like you said, at the end of the day, GM has to be like, okay, like, this is the player that I think can contribute to the team eventually. Like, we're going to take him in.
Yeah, because not every team is blessed with getting the first pick and say, oh, yeah, we're going to pick Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
Does anyone have anything to say? Okay, we're picking Connor McDavid.
That's going to end it for today's episode. If you guys enjoyed the redraft, drop a like, subscribe, notification bell. And if you guys are on Apple and Spotify, again, head over to our YouTube. Social media are all down below in the description. Thank you guys for being here. We'll see you guys in our next episode.